Okay, so let's unpack this. Imagine, imagine having this sort of superpowered assistant right there, at your fingertips. One that can read a really dense research paper in seconds, maybe cook up a compelling title for your next piece of work, or even help design an experiment. It sounds a bit like science fiction, doesn't it? But what if it isn't some distant dream, but it's actually unfolding right now, really reshaping how we approach knowledge? Today on the deep dive, our mission is exactly that. We're going to take a proper deep dive into the practical applications, the sometimes surprising capabilities, and crucially, the really vital limitations of generative AI. We're talking particularly about things like ChatGPT, those large language models, and how they fit into the rigorous world of scientific research and writing. Now, you, our listener, have given us a fantastic stack of sources for this, including a really comprehensive guide on using ChatGPT in these very specific scientific contexts. And, well, we're champing at the bit to get started.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, I think, is just how quickly these tools have evolved. I mean, it feels like only yesterday they were sort of curiosities, maybe a bit of a gimmick. But now they're very rapidly becoming practical aids, imperfect, yes, but practical in a field as complex as scientific inquiry. We are genuinely talking about a paradigm shift in how researchers might augment their work, potentially freeing them up for the uniquely human parts of discovery.
The creative leaps.
Exactly, the intuitive connections, those moments of real insight.
That's it precisely. And I think what listeners will want to get to grips with isn't just what AI can do, but how to use it responsibly. Because with this kind of power comes responsibility, doesn't it? So by the end of this deep dive, you should have a really clear picture of where you can lean on AI in your own professional life, where you need to be cautious, and ultimately, how to think critically about this powerful new partner.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's kick things off by looking at how AI can genuinely supercharge a scientist's workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Tackling those tasks that traditionally just eat up hours, maybe even days. We're talking about a serious boost in efficiency.
Yes, and if we connect that to the bigger picture, the core benefit is absolutely that efficiency. For scientists, reading research papers, well, it's the bedrock of their work, isn't it? But it's also incredibly time-consuming. Just think about the sheer volume of new stuff published every single day.
That's overwhelming.
Completely. AI offers this remarkable shortcut to understanding the essence of vast amounts of information. It lets researchers quickly grasp key insights without getting bogged down in every single detail. It's fundamentally shifting that intellectual bottleneck.
Yeah.
Instead of spending hours just finding the information.
You're freed up to spend those hours thinking about it, making connections, formulating new ideas.
And when we talk about extracting key points, it's not just basic summarization, is it? We're not asking it to just rephrase the abstract.
No, precisely. These AI models, like the ChatGPT-enabled new Bing, they're not just paraphrasing. They have this core capability to quickly pull out key findings, the methods used, the implications, the novelty, the significance. And they do this from the full research article. Take, for example, a test they did on a short communication paper.
Right. Those are tricky, often no abstract or conclusion.
Exactly. But the AI still managed to accurately extract findings that weren't even mentioned in the brief synopsis or the figure captions. That suggests it's really delving into the full text for those deeper insights, not just skimming the surface. It's proper reading comprehension, if you like.
That speed advantage must be, well, revolutionary, really, for researchers.
Oh, absolutely transformative. I mean, think about a first-year PhD student.
Right, often completely bogged down in papers.
Exactly. Spending maybe an hour or two painstakingly digging out every nitty-gritty detail from one dense paper, trying to get to the core of it. Now, imagine that same task done by AI in, well, literally seconds. Seconds. Even if you spend a few minutes refining your prompt, tweaking the query to get exactly what you need, the whole thing takes minutes, not hours. And this isn't just saving time, it's reallocating that intellectual energy, isn't it? It frees up so much time for deeper analysis, critical thinking, connecting ideas. And what's more, the sources we looked at highlight that the AI often writes more clearly and concisely than the original authors, showcasing expert-level language skills.
Really? That's quite something.
Yeah, perfect for generating those quick snapshots you need for a PowerPoint slide, or maybe a 3-minute thesis challenge, or even just updating your profile on academic social networks.
That's fascinating, actually, improving clarity, a real bonus for academics. But what about something even trickier than text? Can AI interpret visuals, figures, data plots? They're often the heart of the data, aren't they?
Absolutely, and this is where its analytical depth really shows. It's quite an astonishing capability, actually.
Hmm.
AI can directly analyze figures in papers, even complex ones like, say, hyperspectral images, those detailed chemical fingerprints, or intricate data blocks. And it correlates them with the main text and the author's interpretations. For instance, in tests, it showed it could read graphical plots directly.
Not just relying on the caption then.
No, not just text searches or captions. It
Mm.
actually extracted approximate wave numbers from spectral data plots, those unique chemical identifiers, even when those specific numbers weren't explicitly written down in the text nearby.
Wow. That sounds incredibly powerful, almost like it's developing its own visual literacy. But
Yeah.
were the interpretations spot on? Any caveats there?
Well, largely accurate, but there were minor inaccuracies sometimes, maybe incorrect color coding mentioned or slightly off wave numbers. But importantly, the researchers running these tests validated the AI's interpretations as mostly correct, which is still pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely.
And it matters hugely because figures are the bedrock of data visualization, aren't they? AI's ability to interpret them helps researchers quickly grasp the core evidence. Even if the figures aren't perfectly standalone, it accelerates understanding.
So it's understanding the data itself, not just the words around it. And this extends to language editing, too. Our sources mention universal access to advanced level language editing. Tell us more there.
Indeed, it's a brilliant development. It really does provide universal access to high-level language editing. You can use it at pretty much any stage, drafting, editing, final proofing. And it's incredibly proficient. It identifies, corrects, and even explains grammatical errors, awkward phrasing, bits that don't quite make sense.
Hmm.
The proficiency levels are genuinely contending to professional human language editors,
Wow.
which is a massive benefit, especially for non-native English speakers.
Mhm.
It helps them rephrase text to meet native English standards much more easily.
And it's not just correcting, it's teaching. That sounds like a huge advantage.
Precisely. Unlike a lot of grammar checkers, or even sometimes a human editor who might just fix it, the AI often gives detailed explanations for the corrections. So you're not just getting your sentence fixed, you're seeing why it was fixed. It helps you understand and learn from their mistakes. That iterative learning is a real game changer. Plus, its multilingual capability is impressive. You can write prompts in, say, Chinese or French, and get similar quality responses. It transcends language barriers quite neatly.
Even for image generation.
Yes, even for things like Bing Image Creator, you can describe an image in your native language and get a relevant visual back.
Okay, moving from polishing text to actually creating it.
Yeah.
Article titles, a perennial headache for researchers, right? Distilling years of work into a few impactful words. Can AI really help with that creative yet analytical task?
It certainly can, and it's a definite time saver. Crafting that perfect title, concise, informative, impactful, it's notoriously hard. It's the first impression. So leveraging its language skills, AI can generate loads of plausible, relevant titles very quickly, give you a whole menu of options.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, so for a manuscript outline on cryptocurrency and environmental impact, the AI came up with many good suggestions. One was adopted with just minor tweaks. The environmental paradox of cryptocurrency, how a decentralized technology contributes to centralized energy consumption and pollution,
That's pretty good.
isn't it? Even if you don't use a title directly, the suggestions give plenty of inspiration and usable phrases. It shows it can be both creative and analytical, a great brainstorming partner.
So AI isn't just polishing words, it's getting into the structure of research itself, from the initial idea right through to communicating it, which raises a big question. Can it genuinely assist in the scientific process? From conception to communication, is it moving beyond just a tool to more of a partner?
Absolutely. And this really highlights AI's analytical depth. Its utility goes way beyond simple text generation. It's moving into areas that traditionally need significant human expertise and strategic thought. Yeah. It is becoming more like a research partner, yes, though one that needs careful guidance, definitely.
Okay, let's start with designing experiments and refining methods. How detailed can it actually get? Can it help a scientist physically set up their lab work?
It can be surprisingly meticulous, actually. AI can design experiments with really detailed step-by-step instructions, things like sample collection, debris extraction, identification, quantification. For instance, it could outline how to detect microplastics in bottled water, step by step.
Does it include the boring but essential bits, like quality control?
Yes, it does. It doesn't just give the basic steps. It can incorporate crucial quality assurance and quality control QA/QC procedures. Suggesting sample replicates, method blanks the fundamentals for robust data. Now, the initial response might have gaps, especially if you're a beginner, but you can prompt it further. Ask for alternatives, like cheaper membrane options or different coding techniques to block unwanted signals. It's interactive.
Like working with an assistant, you iterate.
Exactly.
And can it give a reality check? Compare its own designs to what's already published. That seems invaluable, especially for newer researchers.
Yes, it absolutely can. And that's a really clever application for early career scientists. AI can pull together lists of relevant existing studies, their methods, instruments, quantities, sample types, so you can perform a reality check against its own proposed designs.
Ah, I see. So you can see if its ideas are feasible or totally out there compared to the field.
Precisely. It helps you compare AI suggestions with established practice. Very useful for seeing if a method is viable or maybe too far off the beaten track.
That's quite a leap. What about designing things like public surveys? That feels inherently human, understanding behavior, collecting nuanced data.
It's remarkably capable there, too. It can create quite full-bodied survey questionnaires right from scratch. It'll include demographics, specific questions on behavior changes, general questions to gauge sentiment, the works.
For example,
Well, when asked to design a survey about how mask wearing during COVID changed cosmetic use, it generated really comprehensive questions, including quite nuanced things about mask-friendly products and increased skincare needs. It showed a real grasp of the complexities.
wow.
It can even design the methodology for survey-based risk assessment studies, detailing the experiments, materials, reagents, instruments, QA/QC steps for proper, rigorous research, like assessing inhalation of particles from cosmetics under masks.
So it's building the whole framework, not just listing questions.
Exactly. It's about the robust design for collecting meaningful data.
Okay, so it's getting involved in data collection strategy. Does this extend right back to the start? Conceptualization, writing research proposals, brainstorming new ideas. That feels like where human creativity really lives.
It certainly does extend there, and it can be a massive help in those early stages. AI is a brilliant brainstorming partner. It can help you delve into topics, explore different angles. It can even devise mock proposals.
Block proposal.
Yeah, outlining research questions, giving literature context, proposing tasks, methods, anticipated outcomes. It gives you a framework. Now, it might sometimes make up references at a critical point we absolutely need to come back to, a major caveat.
Right.
But often, the core information it provides can be valid and genuinely help formulate a real proposal. It gives researchers a solid starting point.
But can it offer truly novel insights? Identify gaps that even experts might miss? Or is it more like a very sophisticated librarian summarizing what's already known?
That's a great question. It can identify things that might be considered underreported, like emerging contaminants from new materials or synthetic biology, or suggest alternative hypotheses for debated topics.
Hmm.
However, it's important to remember these ideas might well be known to specialists in that specific field, even if they aren't common knowledge yet.
Ah, good.
The AI is fundamentally limited by its training data, isn't it? It draws connections from what it's already read, so it might not generate those truly innovative or genuinely out-of-the-box ideas that come from human intuition, creativity, maybe connecting disparate fields in a new way.
That spark of human ingenuity is still distinct then.
It seems so, yes.
Yeah.
That leap of intuition remains very much a human domain for now.
Makes sense. And once the research is done, communication is key, isn't it? Getting findings out there. How can AI help bridge that gap between complex science and a general audience? It's a real challenge for many researchers.
Yes, and this is another area where AI can have a significant tangible impact. It's excellent at adapting complex research papers into different styles for different audiences.
Mm.
Imagine taking a highly technical journal article and, poof, turning it into a magazine-style news piece, or a snappy social media post, or even a simplified explanation for school kids.
Can you give an example?
Yeah. The sources showed it successfully rewrote a paper on microplastic debris from masks into both a news article and a high school level explanation. It used clear, simple language and focused on the core concerns relevant to each audience. It really helps democratize scientific knowledge.
And visuals. Visuals are so important for engagement, especially reaching the public. Can it help there?
Absolutely. Visualization is key. Tools like Bing Image Creator using DALL-E 2 can generate poster-style, real-world-like images straight from text prompts. You can even feed it a research article title.
Really?
Yes. Now, you probably wouldn't use AI art for a formal journal cover without very careful checks and permissions.
Sure, publisher restrictions.
Exactly. But for informal settings, they're invaluable. Think engaging visuals for conference posters, presentation slides, infographics, social media. It makes complex science much more accessible and appealing.
That's an incredible list of capabilities. Truly revolutionary for speeding things up, augmenting research. Sounds like a brilliant co-pilot. But like any powerful tool, there are nuances and definitely areas where we need to be, well, cautious. So, what does this all mean for the researcher trusting AI? What are the pitfalls?
And this raises that crucial question about responsibility and critical thinking, doesn't it? While AI is fantastic at retrieving and synthesizing knowledge, its fundamental limits demand rigorous human oversight. And the most significant pitfall, finding a crucial aha moment for many users, is this phenomenon of hallucination.
Hallucination? That sounds quite alarming. Can you explain that? Maybe give us a real-world example so we can really grasp the danger.
Certainly, AI has this consistent, well-documented tendency to provide false or inaccurate information, or even misattributing facts to non-existing sources.
Oh.
It just makes things up, essentially.
Makes things up.
Yes, a prominent and deeply concerning example is how often it includes incorrect bibliographic details or non-existent studies in its answers. The real danger, what makes it so insidious, is that these errors can be incredibly hard to spot
Why is that?
because the AI presents them with such polished language. It sounds authoritative, polite, the whole response seems coherent. It sounds so convincing you might just accept it.
Leading to potentially serious errors in research.
Exactly. A major loss of trust, potentially propagating misinformation.
That is alarming, especially in science where precision and verifiable sources are everything. Can you give us some specific examples of these factual errors from the sources you looked at? This feels vital.
Absolutely, and this is where the rubber hits the road, showing the tangible concerns. In one test, looking at the sensitive topic of SARS-CoV-2 origins and bat viruses, well, the AI made several critical factual errors. For instance, asked to rebut criticism about bat conservation, it wrongly stated RYTG13 was the closest relative. But newer studies, published before the AI's knowledge cutoff, had already identified other viruses from louse as being genetically closer.
That's not a minor slip-up.
Not at all. It's a fundamental misstatement of the science at the time. It also got the location wrong for another key virus, said Laos instead of Thailand, and cited the wrong paper entirely. Plus, incorrect references for other viruses, incorrect bibliographic details. These aren't small typos, they're fundamental errors in scientific accuracy that could seriously undermine a researcher's work.
Good heavens. Were there similar errors in other, maybe less charged areas? Because if it gets basic facts wrong anywhere, that's a huge red flag.
Indeed. The pattern wasn't isolated. Summarizing a study on microplastics in bottled water, for instance, it got the quantity of particles wrong, and it misinterpreted which particles were actually confirmed as plastic using spectroscopy. It missed the crucial detail that smaller particles were only NR tagged, identified, but not chemically confirmed as plastic, a vital distinction.
Right.
In nanoparticle toxicity studies, it messed up the testing subjects said mice instead of a specific human cell line, CAC02. And again, incorrect journal references for studies on carbon nanotubes, titanium dioxide, silver nanoparticles,
Even basic science stuff.
even common scientific equations, things like the pseudo-first-order Logarithm equation or the Freundlich model. Fundamental tools in chemistry were transcribed with errors, missing logs written incorrectly. These are building blocks. Getting them wrong is a major problem.
So the take-home message is you must fact-check rigorously, no exceptions. Is there any way around this, like changing settings to more precise?
That is the absolute crucial takeaway. Rigorous, meticulous fact-checking is non-negotiable. And no, unfortunately, changing settings like more creative to more precise in New Bing, for example, doesn't seem to fix it. The sources suggest this points to an intrinsic limitation of the current models. It's not just a bug. It seems fundamental to how they work when generating specific, verifiable facts, which really underlines why human oversight is paramount.
Okay, beyond outright factual errors, what about consistency? If I ask the same question twice, do I get the same answer?
Unfortunately, there's significant randomness and inconsistency there, too. Responses to the exact same prompt in different chat sessions can vary significantly in terms of their contents and quality.
Really? So it's not deterministic.
Not always, no. So to mitigate that, you might need to ask the same question a few times, maybe rephrase it slightly, or, more effectively, really focus on crafting clear, unambiguous, and well-defined requests to try and guide it towards consistent, high-quality answers.
It's not always one and done then. Needs finessing.
Sometimes, yes. A bit of iterative work.
And you mentioned a potentially major blind spot earlier, failure to include supplementary materials. How big a deal is that, given how much vital data lives in those files now?
It is a major disappointment, and frankly, a critical weakness for scientific use. Both ChatGPT and New Bing consistently failed to include supplementary materials in their analysis of papers, even when links were right there in the text or the prompt.
Wow. And that's often where the real detail is.
Exactly. Supplementary materials often contain valuable information relevant to the main publication. Raw data, extended methods, extra figures, stuff that's critical for a complete picture. Missing that means the AI's understanding is inherently incomplete. It could lead to flawed interpretations or just make it impossible to fully check or replicate the findings. It's like reading only half the story.
Which brings us neatly to the thorny but absolutely vital issues of confidentiality, intellectual property, ethics. What are the key risks for researchers, especially with unpublished work?
Yes, this is a serious concern for publishers and institutions. Uploading unpublished or copyrighted material to these tools carries a significant risk. There's a real fear of losing privacy and intellectual property because many AI applications might collect user data, potentially access, maybe even learn from uploaded documents.
So your confidential research could inadvertently get out.
That's the concern. It could compromise intellectual property, and publisher policies are still evolving here, reflecting that uncertainty. Springer Nature, for instance, advises against reviewers uploading unpublished work and requires authors to declare AI use. Elsevier goes further, completely prohibiting generative AI in peer review.
Why such a strong stance?
They argue only humans can be truly accountable. Critical thinking is beyond AI currently, and AI might generate incorrect or biased conclusions. Taylor and Francis has similar rules on confidentiality. It's a really live issue.
So, bottom line, even with AI help, the buck stops with the human. No passing it off to the algorithm.
Absolutely not. Regardless of the level of AI assistance, the reviewers, the authors, they are ultimately responsible and accountable for the submitted content. The AI is a tool, a powerful one, yes. But the human user holds the final ethical and professional responsibility for what they do with its output. Like a calculator does the sum, but you're responsible for the numbers you put in and how you interpret the result.
Right. So we've seen the incredible potential summarizing, editing, designing, communicating at amazing speed, but we've also seen the very real drawbacks: hallucinations, inconsistency, ethical minefields. It's clear AI isn't just a fancy spell checker, it's complex. It needs human discernment, vigilance, expertise. So how do we, as researchers, as knowledge seekers, engage responsibly? How do we navigate this? What's the blueprint for this partnership?
That really is the crucial question, isn't it? How do we manage this evolving human-AI partnership? And it is fundamentally about augmenting human intelligence, not replacing it, making us more efficient, more capable, but staying acutely aware of where human critical thinking is simply irreplaceable. The partnership needs informed users who understand the strengths and the weaknesses.
Let's start with recommendations for the users themselves, the researchers, the learners actually using these tools. What are the key best practices they should adopt right now?
Okay, for users, the primary recommendations are vital, really worth building into your workflow. First, meticulous prompting. That means crafting clear, unambiguous, well-defined prompts. It really improves the consistency and quality you get back. Think of it like being a precise conductor for a powerful orchestra.
Good analogy. What else?
Second, and I can't stress this enough, rigorous fact-checking. Always validate information from AI, especially numbers, factual claims, references. Don't trust it just because it sounds polished. That authoritative tone can be very deceptive.
Okay, meticulous prompting, rigorous fact-checking.
Third, compliance. Stick to your institution's policies. Follow journal publisher guidelines on AI use and disclosure. These rules are changing fast, so stay informed. And finally, for non-native English speakers, leverage language adaptation. You can write prompts in your own language or even ask the AI to translate or refine your prompt into native English first to maximize accuracy when you then ask your main query.
Brilliant advice. Now, what about the developers? How can they improve these models to better serve science, make them more reliable? It feels like it needs to be a collaboration.
Indeed, developers have some key areas to focus on. They absolutely need to implement mechanisms to alleviate the hallucination issue, perhaps by allowing users to provide and weight trusted sources, giving the AI a curated knowledge base to prioritize.
Right, steer it towards reliable info.
Exactly. Secondly, they really should make it standard practice to include supplementary materials when analyzing research papers. It's a massive blind spot right now, leaving out critical data. And thirdly, integrate ways to weigh sources. give higher importance to information from cited references within the paper itself, or previous work by the same authors, or highly cited studies. That could significantly improve accuracy and context.
So looking ahead, what's the future landscape? Is AI replacing human researchers? That's the fear for many, isn't it?
My view, and what the evidence strongly suggests, is that current models, while offering really meaningful assistance from ideas right through to communication, are definitely not substitutes for human critical thinking, creativity, judgment. The future looks like augmentation, not replacement.
A partnership.
Yes, collaboration is key. We need continued monitoring of AI development and proper collaborative work between scientists and developers to improve these tools for genuine scientific benefit. It's an evolving partnership, not a takeover.
And that innate human ability to truly innovate, to think outside the box. Does AI challenge that, or is that still our unique domain?
Well, AI is incredibly knowledgeable, remarkably analytical. It can process and synthesize data at speeds we can't dream of, but it currently lacks that ability to generate truly innovative ideas or that genuine out-of-the-box thinking that drives breakthroughs. It's trained on existing data, so its insights are built on what's already known.
Right.
The human expert still holds the edge in generating genuinely novel hypotheses, making those intuitive leaps, asking the questions a machine wouldn't even conceive of yet. That creative spark, that aha moment that still feels uniquely human.
Well, that was quite the journey into the fascinating, sometimes sobering world of generative AI in science. We've seen its power summarizing, editing, designing, communicating incredibly fast. A real shortcut to being informed, boosting efficiency.
Indeed. And crucially, we've also stressed the essential vigilance needed. The absolute requirement to fact-check every detail, understand the ethics, recognize that human judgment remains paramount. It's about using AI's strengths while actively compensating for its weaknesses.
Precisely. AI is a powerful co-pilot, definitely, but emphatically not an autopilot for science. It can elevate what we do, let us ask bigger questions faster, process more information, but it demands our active engagement, our critical thinking to validate the answers more rigorously than ever. It's a dynamic interplay, isn't it?
It is.
So, what does this all mean for you, our listener, navigating your own professional world? Perhaps it's a call to embrace these tools, yes, but with informed curiosity. Experiment, definitely, but always with healthy skepticism and a sharp eye on accountability for every piece of information you use. The future of knowledge. It might well be this powerful partnership between human intellect and artificial intelligence, where critical validation, discernment, ethical responsibility, maybe those become our most important skills. We really hope this deep dive has given you plenty to mull over and apply in your own work. And if you found this discussion valuable, please do consider rating and sharing this deep dive with a colleague on LinkedIn or X. It truly helps us reach more curious minds like yours. Until our next deep dive, keep digging for those insights.